Okay. So thank you for doing this with me today.
Of course.
Appreciate you. So I just wanted to talk about, and feel free, you can share a lot or a little, whatever you're comfortable with.
Okay.
But like, when did you first start dieting? What have you done? Walk us through just a little bit of your journey.
Oh man. So I started dieting at age 10. I was kind of an early bloomer. I hit puberty at age 10, and I remember feeling very uncomfortable in my skin compared to my other friends. I all of a sudden had breasts. I was menstruating. Like there were so many changes, and I still felt so young. And so I think I came to my mom with some concerns about it. And my mom had always been a chronic dieter. So she did what she thought was best, and she took me to a Weight Watchers meeting. And Weight Watchers has always kind of been my home base of dieting. I have tried every diet under the sun, from, Whole30 to veganism. I mean, all the things, all the cleanses. But I always kind of came home to Weight Watchers. I've done all the iterations of Weight Watchers. And yeah, I think in the process of this, while I know my mom was trying to do her best, and she also grew up in diet culture, it has built this incredible distrust in my body. Not knowing how to feed myself well, not trusting myself on how much to put on my plate, how to move my body. And it has left me feeling like I don't know what I'm doing. And so I think part of my problem is that I'm overwhelmed with information because I've done every diet, and everyone can present their diet in a way that's very compelling. Everyone, like, there's not a single person that doesn't have some kind of research to back why their program is the best.
They all have a secret.
Yeah. And so it's like I feel almost paralyzed by all the information that I know. There's not a single piece of diet information I don't know, but it's like, which one feels right for me? And so I followed this trajectory for 20 years before I ended up with a full-blown eating disorder. So that was at the end of my journey with Weight Watchers. I got to my goal weight with Weight Watchers, and I remember the day after I weighed in and I reached that goal, standing in the mirror and going, is this really as good as it gets? And I still was so unhappy in my body. And I was starving myself. I don't know how much detail you want me to give.
Whatever you want.
But, I was running 5Ks on an empty stomach, dehydrated from the day before so I could get the lowest weight possible. I was weighing my clothes on a food scale so I could make sure they were as light as possible for my weigh-ins. I was obsessive. I was cranky. I was taking laxatives like it was candy to just get everything out that I could. And I was more miserable than I'd ever been, but I was in my dream body. I mean, I remember even trying on my wedding dress again, and it fit, and it was actually kind of loose. And I remember just sitting there crying in this wedding dress. And it's like, this is what I worked so hard for. And also, side note, the thing that got me into my wedding dress to begin with when I got married was the phentermine diet. I was on phentermine. I was taking drugs. I was taking stimulants to help me lose weight. So I've just always kind of chased after this idea of being thin and feeling like, I would make claims like, it's for my health, it's for my health. But it never was. It was to try to feel accepted by society, by my friends, by my family. And it's just left me in a bigger body than I'd ever been in before. Because every time you diet and you lose all the weight and then you regain it back, you gain a little bit more each time.
Your metabolism gets a little bit crankier.
Yes. And so that was kind of my dieting journey. And then I was so broken at that point, and I knew I needed to do something different. So around that time, I was at my lowest of low points, and I discovered like the anti-diet, body positivity, intuitive eating movement. And so I went all the way in. I mean, just really dove headfirst into it. created like an amazing community around me, had what I thought was food freedom. And I was working out, I was feeling good, and I thought it was good until I became sick and I had an autoimmune condition.
Yeah.
And that was about 4 years ago. So beginning of 2020, right before the world shut down, I was diagnosed with an autoimmune condition. And everything flipped upside down for me because I realized that what I was doing, what I thought was healthy, was not helping me anymore.
Yeah.
And so I found myself in this really tricky spot of not knowing how to feed myself. So I didn't know how to eat intuitively, not truly. And I didn't feel welcomed in the intuitive eating anti-diet community because they, like any kind of thing that looks possibly like a diet, they're shitting on it. Like they are, I got a lot of friends that made comments to me about how I had internalized fat phobia because I was going on a healing protocol. And so I didn't feel like I belonged there. And I also didn't want to fall back into diet culture. I didn't want to go back to the life of restriction. And so for the last 4 years, I just have found myself trying different healing protocols, doing everything that I can to try to figure out what's going on in my body. The doctors are no help. And knowing that eating the standard American diet is not helping me, it's leaving me inflamed, but also, again, going back to being overwhelmed by information and feeling so paralyzed and not knowing what to do. And so I was inconsistent with anything that I did because I would try something for a couple weeks and then I would hear a new podcast and I'm like, oh my gosh, I should stop doing this, or I need to start doing this. And so I kind of went from diet culture to anti-diet culture to like wellness culture, which is another whole shit show.
Yes.
And left myself like I've just been sick and chasing after this constant, like the theme is the same. I was chasing thin my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
And now I find myself chasing this idea of not being broken anymore.
Yes.
Like I've had this belief that I'm broken and I have to chase after something to fix me. So I'm no longer broken. So, and now we're here today. Yeah.
I remember when we talked, I think the first time we talked, I said to you, you're not broken.
Yeah. Yes.
I specifically was talking about your genes and your gene expression and your autoimmune. I'm like, no, you're not broken. I'm not even concerned about it. Just gotta switch them off and you'll be good to go. And you're like, okay.
Yeah.
But is it really that easy? Well, it could be. So, and in a way, okay, because we've been working together. Did we just wrap up our first month?
I think it's been longer than that. I think we're getting closer to 2 months now.
Okay.
Yeah.
You're right. So yes, because your first progress photos, I saw a change. They made me cry.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Because you said for the past year, you've been macroing and calorie counting.
Oh, yes.
And what were your results with that?
Okay. So just a little, now we have to take a little detour, something I forgot to mention. So I also, on top of the autoimmunity, I also have a condition called lipedema, which is a connective tissue disorder, and it specifically affects fat tissues. And so this fat tissue is more fibrotic. It is not like typical adipose tissue. And so it is, what I've been told by doctors, is that it is completely resistant to diet and exercise. And so the only thing you can try to do is lose like the regular adipose tissue, but the lipidemic fat will have to be removed via surgery. That's the only way. That's what I've been told. It's very, very defeating. And so I found myself just like my legs, it's especially in my legs, and my legs continued to get larger and larger. So just to give you an example of this, in the last year, my weight had not changed, but my leg size, my pant size went up 2 sizes. My legs just continued to expand because I was inflamed, and inflammation and also hormonal issues can increase the lipedema. Mm-hmm. So I was battling hormonal issues and inflammation. And so I just got to this point where I'm like, I'm in the largest body I've ever been in. I have got to get some of this weight off. And, you always hear this message of like, it's calories in, calories out. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you do. It's always calories in, calories out.
Always the math.
Yeah, it's always the math. And so I decided to start tracking my macros. I was focused very heavily on protein, especially, and then also count my calories at the same time. And very quickly, it became very disordered again. I started to fall back into these patterns of, like, at first it was like I'm tracking, I'm loosely tracking the macros, and then I'm tracking the ounces of everything. And now I'm going to grams. And if my husband dares to take a bite off my plate that's perfectly measured, I'm furious.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I worked so hard to put that perfect amount and I've already tracked it in my tracker. And once again, I found myself feeling very distrusting of my body.
Yes.
Because my tracker was telling me what to eat. My tracker was telling me how much food I had left for the day. And if I felt extra hungry because maybe I'm, about to enter into my menstrual phase and I need a little bit of extra nutrition, I was like, well, I can't have that. And if I was not hungry, I would force myself to eat because I have to hit that protein goal for the day. I've got to hit my macros. Yep. And so I very quickly stopped learning to listen to my body once again and fell back into disordered behaviors. Yeah. But here's the other hilarious part about it is that I lost no weight. Not a single pound came off my body. The inflammation didn't come off. I was so frustrated. And so I would macro count for a month with a certain number that I had done all the math for it. And then, I would hear all these health influencers say, well, then you must be eating too much then, because that's the math. That's the science. So I would cut my macros again, and I would cut them again, and I would cut them again. And yet again, I lost nothing. Yeah. I remained at the same weight for over a year of macro tracking. Nothing. Not a single pound. And it was so incredibly discouraging. And it's frustrating because these macro coaches, these calorie tracker promoters, they fail to see the nuance of things. Yeah. Like, no one's talking about lipedema and how, yes, it is harder to lose fat with lipedema. It is harder. Yeah. No one's talking about hormonal fluctuations or hormonal issues or a slowed down metabolism because you've been yo-yo dieting for 20 years. Yeah. There's no discussion of the nuance. And I got to this point where I'm like, am I just going to keep cutting calories until I'm eating less than 1,000 calories? Yeah. Like, is that realistic for my life, that I'm going to have to just keep cutting and cutting and cutting just to try to shed 1 pound? Or is there something else going on?
Yeah, absolutely. I've heard so many calorie counting coaches. One in particular, her hill to die on is, if you're in a deficit and you're not losing weight, you're not in a deficit.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. And she will make the reference to prisoners of war are never fat. She will say this on Instagram, and I'm like, oh my God, are we really comparing our diet struggles to prisoners of war? That's your analogy. And then, it's just, it's always, the answer is always diet harder.
Yeah.
To them. You are not working hard enough. You must be not dieting hard enough. Okay. Yes. So when we started working together, before you even gave me the go ahead, I said, if nothing else, can you please just stop counting your calories and your macros?
Yes.
And you did. Thank you.
I did. I did. It was hard. It was harder than I expected to release that control. Yeah.
It's really scary. And it's scary because you started dieting at such a young age, and I can relate. Trusting your body, what does that even mean? We don't know. We were never taught how.
Yes.
We don't know what it's like to be full. Sometimes we don't even know what it's like to be hungry, because you're always in this disordered binge or starvation, and it's wild. So you stopped tracking immediately. We started focusing on other things like micro habits, focusing on your water, doing your little mini workouts on your trampoline.
Yes.
Walking, couple weight sessions a week, not even anything that big of a deal.
Yeah.
And your nutrition, and not even putting you in this like box of this is when you need to eat. It's just very loose. You eat when you're hungry. You will eat the right foods. You will stop when you're hungry. And you feel like you are overeating.
I felt that way initially, but not because it felt that way in my body, but because I think, this programming runs so deep. And back to this idea of like, just diet harder. The message that I have received my whole life when I have said I'm struggling to lose weight is always, well, you must be eating too much. You must be lying about what you're eating. You're not being honest with yourself. And I know that a lot of women will understand when I say this. There's no one that diets harder than me. Like, like we all feel this way, right? Like I am working hard. Like
this is like a career.
I'm a pro dieter, okay? I am tracking very honestly. And so this idea that I'm not working hard enough, it's really been ingrained in me. And so there's this idea, and sometimes I question myself like, well, maybe I do eat too much. Maybe I don't eat like other people do. Maybe my thin friends eat less food than me. Maybe I'm the problem. And so it was hard when I first started sending you pictures of my food. And I know that I asked you several times, I'm like, are you sure my food's okay? Because I was so scared. I'm like, I feel like I'm eating too much because God forbid I'm satiated, like God forbid I don't feel a little bit of hunger pains, because that's what we're also taught is like, it's okay to feel a little bit hungry. That's just your body like trying to keep you in this spot. And it's like, no. It's okay to actually eat what your body needs.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I remember when I would eat 6 tiny meals throughout, well, I could never quite get to 6. Every 2 hours, just my goodness, time got away from me.
Yeah.
And I was very consistent with my 5 tiny meals. We're talking, a hard-boiled egg and maybe a cup of oats.
Yeah.
Cooked in water with a little bit of Splenda. It's very sad. But like that was breakfast, right?
Yeah.
And I remember eating and telling myself, savor this because you will be hungry.
Yeah.
You will not leave full.
Yeah.
But you only have 2 more hours until you can eat that rice cake with peanut butter.
Oh my gosh.
Okay. I can do anything for 2 hours. I'm like, oh my gosh, this cannot be the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
To the dream body. And thank goodness it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like imagine just eating until you're actually satisfied. Like what a brilliant concept.
Forbid. What a concept. What a concept to eat a large meal. Let's talk like a full ribeye, right?
Yeah.
It is beautiful. And maybe a beautiful blue cheese salad on the side, and you leave nice and full, and you don't think about food for 5 or 6 hours.
Yes. Yeah.
That is food freedom, in my opinion.
Yeah. And this, I know there's a lot of talk right now, especially with the GLP-1 drugs, about how it shuts off food noise.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, and I don't want to go off on a tangent about those drugs, but just the food noise shut off for me when I actually started eating enough.
Yeah.
Like that's what it took for me was just eating enough. And then suddenly, miraculously, the food noise went away because
it goes away.
Every diet I've ever done, I constantly was thinking about the next meal. Constantly.
Yeah,
it was all I thought about.
We obsess. And that's what I tell, it's funny because when I say my idea of food freedom is that, and that's the thing I try to drill into my messaging and what we believe in is that, no, we should not be obsessed about food. Food is to be enjoyed and it should be beautiful.
Yeah.
We eat it and then we move on because we've got things to do.
Yes.
And I don't have time to be focused, spending beautiful brain power on my rice cake and peanut butter, maybe with half an apple.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. Yeah. So, food freedom. Hold on. I'm connecting a dot. Okay. So, where you're at right now, 2 months into working with Randy and me, you are, can I tell how?
Oh, go ahead.
We don't really like to weigh on the scale, but we did because we want to have a neutral relationship with it and just kind of see, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you feel after you stepped on the scale?
I actually felt very neutral about it, but I did laugh about it because, I mean, you know why. It's just my number was not what the diet industry would say is impressive. But if you combine it with my photos and you combine it with the inches lost, it's pretty mind-blowing.
Yeah.
And so I know that my body, like I went through a massive body recomposition instead of losing muscle weight along the way. And so it seems like a low number. Like in the past, I would have been devastated by the number because it feels like I should have lost more, especially considering the body that I'm in. But because I had already seen the measurements, the progress of that, and the photos, and I'm feeling better than I felt in the last 4 years, and probably ever since I started dieting, it's hard to be upset about that number.
So the number is 7 pounds.
Yes.
So that would, if we were mathing, it's about a pound a week, right? Yeah. Okay. Which is incredible.
Yeah.
And you're down 11 inches.
Yes.
Total body. And I would love to be able to share your photos.
I don't want to share the photos. We'll share those in the future.
Okay. All right. Future.
Not quite ready.
We'll do
future.
like a 6-month recap.
Yeah, that's future.
Fair. But it really does look like someone has taken a paintbrush to your legs and is just smoothing those puppies out, and your waist is cinching. It's incredible. Even in your face, I'm like, oh.
Yeah. Well, and the lipedema that I was told could never be removed, that's what Jess is referring to, is just the smoothing of my legs, because they, like the lipedema, I can see it shrinking.
Yeah.
That, I've been told will never go away. I have to have the surgery. And it's just not true. My inflammation has gone down significantly.
Yeah.
I used to be so puffy everywhere.
Yeah.
So I'm just feeling, also the other thing is that the lipedemic fat is also extremely painful.
Yeah.
It's very tender to the touch. Like if a cat crawls across my lap, I'm in excruciating pain. And my pain is gone. My lipedema, it's gone.
What?
So, yeah. I deal with some pain around my ovulation because, estrogen levels.
Yes.
So I deal with some sensitivity and a little bit of extra heaviness in my legs. But the pain is gone.
Why haven't you told me that?
It's something that I just realized. I was thinking about our talk today and I'm like, oh my gosh, I haven't felt pain. It's like one of those gradual things where it's like, wait a minute. I don't remember the last time I've been in pain.
Wow.
I just don't remember now.
Yeah.
It just kind of gradually happened. I used to walk around with my legs would feel like 2 tons, just lifting them even felt so heavy. To pick up my feet just felt so exhausting. And now it's fine. My mobility's better. I'm walking with ease. My feet don't hurt. All of those things.
Do you think that you can see yourself doing this program for the rest of your life?
Oh yeah, easily. Okay. One of the things that we haven't addressed either is like some of the micro habits that I've developed. Yeah. One of those being sleep. And I credit you single-handedly for changing my relationship with sleep. I have always struggled with sleep my whole life. I've had sleep disturbances. I have very vivid dreams. I am always waking up and having a hard time going back to sleep. And when we first talked, like our first coaching, you like every doctor's like, you know, you're not going to get better if you don't sleep. Every health influencer is like, you're not going to get better if you don't get sleep. And so it built this anxiety in me of feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm going to die. Like I'm going to die if I don't get this sleep.
Yeah.
And so when I would wake up in the middle of the night, I would feel panicky and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's 2 a.m. I would check my watch or I'd check my alarm clock and I'd panic. And like, then I wouldn't be able to get back to sleep because I would feel so anxious. And so you just kind of gave me this permission of like, what if you woke up in the middle of the night and you just didn't make a big deal about it and you just went back to sleep and you recognize that that's a normal human behavior, to wake up in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
And it was like this light bulb. I'm like, what? Like, you're telling me I can just wake up and not have anxiety about it and go back to sleep? And that same day, I slept for 8 hours that night. And I was like, what is this? I mean, I was sleeping before our program, we started working together. I was sleeping about 3 to 4 hours a night. From that to now, my biggest goal is like 7. If I can get more than that, awesome. So that alone has been such a blessing for me because I feel like I just have so much more clarity and I have so much more energy. And then, like I love the way I'm eating. I mean, I love the way I eat. Like this morning I had steak for breakfast, like
amen.
Steak and eggs for breakfast. I feel so good. My energy is long lasting. I used to take a nap every single day. I was taking a 3 to 4 hour nap. And you know, it would make my kids sad. Like they would say, Mommy, I wish you could stay awake. Like I homeschool, so my kids are home all the time. And it would be hard for them, you know, and then I would wake up crabby from my nap. And so it was impacting my life. And I physically could not stay awake before. And so now it's like, okay, I'm sleeping, I'm moving my body. And it feels too easy sometimes. Like we've talked about this. It just feels like, okay, so you're telling me just get some sleep, eat well, eat the foods that I love, that are real foods, right? And walk. Like it's that simple. Of all the things that I've done, like I've never just been able to crush the basics. There's always been this like shiny, dangly carrot in front of me of like, I need to do the HIIT workouts, or I need to do the boot camp, I need to do the cleanse. And no one just said, hey, how about we just do the basics for a while? And I think the coolest thing about it is that it's given me this belief in myself again. Like I've been able to see that I can be disciplined. And I can show up even when I don't want to take care of myself because it feels accessible. It feels doable. And then it just, every time I get on the treadmill or every time I go outside to get a walk, every time I nourish my body well, it's like it's like giving myself a little gold star. I'm like, okay, like I did this again. I did it again. And this is the most consistent I've ever been, ever. I haven't gotten injured. I haven't, which is, you know, usually what would happen is I would like start a new running program and one weekend I'm getting injured. I would do like a cross training type class and I would get injured day 2. And then I would be out for a couple weeks and then it would take me a couple more weeks before I had the nerve to join in again. And nothing's ever been consistent. And now I'm like, oh my gosh, you can be disciplined. You can be consistent. And it's given me room to increase my goals as well. So we just, you know, when we had our coaching call the other day, I'm like, hey, what do you think about bumping up my steps to 12,000 instead of 10? Because I'm crushing 10. You know, my average is well over 10. Maybe I can try a little harder. Maybe I can challenge myself. So and in the past, I would have never tried to go for the harder thing.
Really?
I think, like I would want the hard thing on paper. Like I want to look like I would choose the thing that I thought was going to get me the thinnest, the quickest.
Yeah.
But I didn't really want to do the work. Like it was really hard to keep up with those things. And so ideally, in an ideal world, I would be thin with the bare ass minimum. Like I would do very little and be able to get thin. So,
well, you know what that's like, Kaitlyn? It's like putting your energy into areas that do not give you the best bang for your buck.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we diet harder. We hone in on our macros more. We do more HIIT workouts. We sleep less to get to the gym instead of pouring into what matters the most. And what matters the most is the boring stuff.
Yeah.
That we just don't really want to do because it's not sexy.
Yeah.
Sleep is not sexy. Walking on a treadmill is, but that's the thing that's going to actually, you know, really get us past the threshold and keep going, right?
Yeah.
Keep making gains and progress.
Yeah. And I think every time, you know, I get a little further, I feel like it makes me excited to try more challenges that feel doable. Like, I think, I don't know, like it's cool to see me challenge myself and go, okay, 12,000 steps, but not because I think 12,000 steps is going to get me as skinny as possible, as quick as possible,
Right.
but because I'm like, I can do this. I'm consistent. I'm loving this. I love the way I feel, and I want to challenge myself more. So it's like a different mindset. It's not like I want to challenge myself because I feel like it's what I'm supposed to do. It's because I want to do it.
You want to, and you want
to do it.
You want to be the type of person who can do hard things, who
Yes.
can follow through with doing those things, right? And you have discipline, you have follow through, you have consistency.
Yeah.
I mean, right? So we want to be that person, but we can't be that person when we're in pain all the time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's very challenging.
Oh yeah. That was one of my things. Well, I remember getting off the phone with you and telling Randy, I just want her to feel good. And I was not, I mean, and my struggle is I become very emotionally invested in your results. And I have to work on separating that and going, you know what? I just show up for my clients and that's it, right? Just keep doing what I'm doing. But I remember telling Randy, like, it's going to be a long time before Kaitlyn actually looks physically different.
Yes.
I totally acknowledge that. No worries. My goal with her is I just want her to feel good. And he's like, well, you know where to start. We need to start with her sleep. I'm like, duh.
Yes. Yeah.
So seeing your physical results, I was like, I mean, you know, I broke down like a little baby.
Well, and it was so defeating once I got the lipedema diagnosis. I mean, I went into such a depression spiral because I realized, you know, lipedema is a progressive disease. So, you know, a lot of the people that I see in part of the lipedema organizations, a lot of these women are wheelchair bound or they have to be on scooters because their legs have become so fibrotic. And then eventually one of the comorbidities is lymphedema. And so, you know, they have lymphatic issues. They just cannot physically walk. And so I was told the only thing I could do is possibly prevent it from getting worse, possibly. But I was also prepared for everybody scares you about perimenopause and menopause because there's so many hormonal changes. That's when a lot of women see massive progression with their lipedema. And so it just felt so defeating. And then you're also being told, you know, I'm also being told by the doctor that like, you cannot cure or reverse autoimmunity. And it's like, man, I have these two massive illnesses that are, one of them is progressive. Like I'm looking at a lifetime of pain and suffering and eventually being wheelchair bound because I can't afford the surgery that costs $60,000 to get this removed. And even if you get the surgery, it can come back. Like and it felt so defeating. And so when I came to you, I really like, and you've even called me out on this, that I have a lot of just kind of like self-defeating mindsets of like, well, it is what it is. Like me trying to be realistic about it, but it's also it has set me back in a way because I've had this mindset that I'm helpless, and back to this idea of me being broken.
Yeah.
And so I kind of had to surrender when we started working together to, I'm surrendering this program. I have decided that I'm going to trust in what Jess and Randy are doing, what they're teaching me. And it was like the last hurrah. Like, if this doesn't work, nothing will. That's kind of where I had exhausted all other options. And my friend Megan, who is also, Megan, she was the one that suggested that I work with you guys. And even in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, I'm glad it worked for you, but it won't work for me. It just won't. It doesn't. And immediately from day one, I mean, before we even started working together, when you told me to stop tracking, I mean, I cried after that.
Yeah.
And I just was like, oh my gosh, this is so different than anything I've ever done. Like I knew instantly that I needed to work with you. I think I messaged you like 2 minutes later and I'm like, I'm ready to sign up. Matt's giving me the credit card. I'm ready to go.
Let's go. It's party
let's
time.
do this. So yeah, I mean, I was ready because I just knew, I'm like, I had exhausted all other options, and I knew that there was something different about your program. I trusted Megan in that because we've walked through a lot of health struggles together.
Yeah.
And so, I think I was surprised. I'll be honest. I was a little surprised to see the results.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I knew I was feeling better, and I talked to my husband about it, and I said, honestly, like, if all I get out of this program is just how I feel, and my body doesn't change, but just how I feel better, I'm okay with it. Yeah. And then I saw the progress pictures and I was like, whoa, like, oh my goodness.
Well, you know what, too, there's truth when we release the control of the outcome, right?
Yes.
Yes. Do you want to be 80 pounds lighter? For sure. But are you obsessed about it with such negativity? And when you go into it, you're like, I just have to get results. I've had people message me before, where are my results? Voice memo me, I'm working hard, where are my results? And I'm like, whoa, focus on the process. How do you feel? No, they don't care. Where are the results? That is the only thing that matters. And I think when you can just enter something and go, you know what? I just want to be healthy. Yes, I would like to look great, but you know what? You're just in a different place. But I think if anyone can take that and go, okay, do I have the autoimmune struggles? No, but Kaitlyn's right. Focus on the process. Focus on how I feel, and the results will follow.
Yeah. And I think if I had started working with you 4 years ago or a year ago, even, I probably wouldn't have been ready for that message. I wouldn't have been ready for it. I've had to do a lot of work and a lot of grieving and a lot of coming to terms with the reality that is my life right now, to get to a point where I felt like, okay, I'm going into this for the journey and we'll see what happens. And I'm releasing this idea of a certain number in my mind. And that kind of freedom, just releasing that and just leaning into, I'm going to just focus on the basics and I'm just going to keep showing up every day and we'll see what happens, has been like that level of freedom. I mean, I've never experienced that, because that's the thing with dieting, with chronic dieting, is that you don't know how to trust your body, but yet you're always trying to control it. Like, it's a constant battle of control and trying to control all outcomes. And so it is hard. Like I empathize with people who join your program and are like, why am I not doing more? Why am I not seeing results? Like, I get it. Like I get that. But also this, like, I'm so grateful that I'm doing this now, because I think like the time's going to pass anyways. And if I stopped working with you because I wasn't seeing the results that I wanted to see, a year from now, I would have been like, man, I wish that I would have kept going.
Yeah.
I wish that I would have kept going. I wish I would have trusted the process. Because it's amazing just the consistency in the basics and how much it makes a difference. I mean, really, really makes a difference. Just showing up for yourself every day.
Yeah.
In the best way that you can. Like, I haven't been perfect. You know, there's been days that I've missed workouts, or days that I haven't gotten all my steps in, days I haven't gotten all the water in.
Yep.
You know, even this morning, I'm running on very little sleep because I decided to have a slumber party with my kids.
Yep.
And it was worth it. It was worth it. But not every day is perfect. But overall, if you look at my habits over the last 7 weeks that we worked together, I'm hitting those basics very consistently.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm so proud of you.
Thank you.
You're a joy. I don't think I have any other questions for you.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I feel like you gave so many nuggets of wisdom and so many takeaways. Okay, if you could say one thing to someone who is maybe on the fence about working with us, or maybe doesn't believe that this would work for them, what would you say?
Well, there's like so many things that I could say. I think that the gift of learning how to trust yourself again, I think that's like the biggest thing that you've given me, is being able to really reconnect with my body and nourish it well. I think that gift and having that food freedom and the freedom from the food noise and really learning to trust in my body has been so healing for me. Like on a very mental, physical, spiritual level, like you guys have helped me heal from so much that you don't even know. And it's allowed me to really transform my mindset and my body, you know?
I love it. And we don't even do like deep mental work, right?
No.
We're just
no.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I know a lot of people, they're like, oh, when you say you do mindset work, what does that mean? I'm like, it's not as hard as you think.
No.
We're not having to get all into our inner child.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I love it. I love you. Thank you.
Of course.
All right. I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye, Jess.
Bye.